Welcome. Thank you for joining us for today's TechSoup for Libraries webinar, Digital Skills for Older Adults, Teaching Technology in Public Libraries. My name is Crystal and I'll be your host. We have two guests today who will talk about some free digital literacy resources that you can integrate into your library's services and programming. They'll also share some ideas and examples of how libraries can effectively provide digital literacy training to older adults. But before we begin, I have just a few announcements to share. We will be using the ReadyTalk platform for our meeting today. Please use the chat in the lower left corner to send questions and comments to the presenters. We will be tracking your questions throughout the webinar and will answer them at the designated Q&A section at the end. All of your chat comments will only come to the presenters, but if you have comments or ideas to share, we will forward them back out to the entire group. You do not need to raise your hand to ask a question. Simply type it into the chat box. Should you get disconnected during the webinar, you can reconnect using the same link in your confirmation email. You should be hearing the conference audio through your computer speakers, but if your audio connection is unclear, you can dial in using the phone number in your confirmation email. If you're having technical issues, please send us a chat message and we'll try to assist. This webinar is being recorded and will be archived on the TechSoup website. If you're called away from the webinar or if you have connection issues, you can watch a full recording of this webinar later. You will receive an archive email within a few days that will include a link to the recording, the PowerPoint slides, and any additional links or resources shared during the session. If you're live tweeting this webinar, please use the hashtag TS4LIBS. We have someone from TechSoup also live tweeting this event, so please join us in the conversation there. TechSoup Global is dedicated to serving the world's nonprofit organizations and libraries. TechSoup was founded in 1987 with a global network of partners. We connect libraries and nonprofits to technology, resources, and support so that you can operate at your full potential, more effectively deliver programs and services, and better achieve your missions. TechSoup has distributed over 14 million software and hardware donations to date through our product donation program. We offer a wide range of software, hardware, and services, including software like Microsoft Office and refurbished computers. For more information about TechSoup product donations or services, please visit TechSoup.org and click on Get Products and Services. And we have two guests joining us today. Steve Black is the founder of TechBoomers.com, a free training resource that teaches technology skills. He is committed to helping libraries and other technology training organizations teach digital literacy. Kathy Fabian teaches computer classes at the Leonardtown branch of the St. Mary's County Library. Her primary interest and passion is technology programming for older adults. My name is Crystal Schimpf and I'll be your host for today's webinar. Assisting us with chat and Twitter, we have Ginny Meese and Becky Wiegand from the TechSoup team. And again, we will be on Twitter using @TechSoup4Libs handle and the hashtag TS4LIBS. Now we will have time for questions throughout the webinar, so please send your questions using the chat as they arise, and we will address as many as we are able to. If you ask a question that we're not able to answer during the webinar, we will follow up later via email with a response. And again, as a reminder, the webinar is being recorded today, and all of the slides, resources, and materials will be included in the archive, and you will receive an email with that within a few days. Now today we'll start off by hearing from Steve about TechBoomers.com. And he will give us an overview of what is available, and we'll also share some ideas for how libraries can integrate TechBoomers tutorials into their training programs. And then Kathy will share some information specific to helping older adults with technology. She will discuss how to reach older adults, how to meet the technology training needs of older adults, and how to evaluate those services. Again, we'll have questions during the webinar and at the end, so send in your questions as they arise. And also, at the end of this webinar, I'll share details about a forum that we will be holding in the TechSoup community forums following today's webinar if you would like to continue the conversation there. So I will share that information with you at the end. Now there are many resources out there to teach digital skills, some of which are free and some of which have a fee or are paid. And techboomers.com that we're going to talk about today is one of those free resources, as is digitallearn.org and gcflearnfree.org, and those two are sites we've also featured recently on TechSoup. And there are also paid resources, including lynda.com. Some libraries I know have a subscription to that resource. And also Atomic Training, which is a paid resource and is available at a discounted rate through TechSoup's product donation program. So this is just to give you some context of the many different types of resources that are out there and available to you. And today we'll be focusing on techboomers.com. Now before I hand the controls over to Steve, we'd love to hear from you. If you knew about TechBoomers prior to this webinar, so please select the response that applies to you by clicking the radio button and clicking Submit. And we will see then everybody's results. I'll give you a few moments to think about that and respond. And of course maybe you've heard of it and you have used it before. See a small percentage that identify with that response. Maybe you've heard of it but never actually used it. A few more there, and I can see the vast majority, and it still seems to be holding true, that many of you here are hearing about TechBoomers for the first time today, and that is great to hear. We're always happy to introduce people to new free resources that are out there, so I'm glad to see that. I'll give just a couple more seconds for this poll. I can see responses are still coming in, but that margin is not changing too much. We're definitely seeing the majority of people saying they haven't heard of it before. Now if you have used it and or have heard of it and have used it before, I think you may still gain some new ideas in hearing from Steve today. And then of course we will all benefit from the tips that Kathy is going to share with us later on about engaging and working with older adults. Okay, it looks like most of our responses have come in, so I'm going to go ahead and close this poll now. And if you didn't already see the responses now, you'll see them on your screen. So definitely the vast majority, 84%, saying this is their first time hearing of TechBoomers. So welcome to all of you, and I hope you all learned something new today. But now I'm going to hand things over to Steve, and he is going to tell us about teaching digital literacy with techboomers.com. Steve?
Great. Thank you very much, Crystal. It's awesome to be here. Really appreciate the opportunity. It's been very exciting for our team since we launched last year. We've been connecting with so many different people and organizations that are passionate about digital literacy, and we've learned so much along the way from them. And I'm an entrepreneur who's always looked for a more purposeful social entrepreneurial opportunity, and just so grateful to be here to share the TechBoomers story and share how we're trying to help libraries teach digital literacy. And for 250 people to be here that haven't heard of us is just such an amazing opportunity. So thank you for that. I'm going to start off just by kind of sharing a bit of the TechBoomers story. The idea for the website was inspired by my mom, actually, Linda. She used email actively, did some online banking, and dabbled with a few other websites here and there, but she was always interested in learning more. One example is she wanted to learn how to use Skype to make free long-distance video chat phone calls to her grandson, Michael. She also wanted to learn how to share and post photos online to share with friends and family. And Netflix was always interesting to her. She hated paying the expensive monthly cable bill. She loved the idea of unlimited commercial-free TV and movies and thousands of on-demand shows and movies to choose from. And I think we can all agree that technology can just improve life in so many ways, whether it's becoming more social online with friends and family, meeting new people with online dating websites, and just communicating with people with email and Skype and all that. Saving money, you can do it in a number of ways, booking travel online, buying used goods, finding discounts, finding less expensive entertainment options like Netflix. And technology and the Internet can just make life easier in a lot of ways, whether it's using Google Maps instead of an expensive GPS hardware, or ordering groceries to your home if you don't have a car, or online cloud storage. Websites and apps can just make life easier. And lifelong learning is really, really important as well. And there's so many resources online these days that people of all ages can use. But the problem for my mom was, and a lot of other people, is how to get started. I'd help her whenever I could, but I was running a company at the time when I came up with this idea, and I lived over an hour away, so I wasn't always available. I went online and searched in Google for article and video tutorials, but most of which I found were either out of date or missing information, and just probably most importantly, just not in a structured learning environment that my mom needed to really self-learn. And the internet can certainly be overwhelming and intimidating at times for those new to technology. It's difficult to know which websites you can trust and how much they really cost, and of course how to actually use them. So that's why we built techboomers.com. We launched last year in January. We currently have over 80 free courses composed of close to 1,100 video and article tutorials now. We release a new course every Monday. Each course usually covers a specific website or app, from everything from what it is to how to use it and even how to delete your account if you don't want to use it anymore. We also have courses on topics like internet safety and privacy as well. In the middle of last year, about 4 or 5 months after we launched, we also added the ability for website visitors to create an account to track their progress. That was actually a feature that was requested by a number of our library partners, so they kind of inspired that idea, and that's been really useful for digital literacy teachers and obviously their students, so they can track their progress and remember where they left off in the different courses they signed up to and joined. Our overall mission is really to improve the quality of lives of older adults, or just anybody really who's new to technology or just looking to expand their kind of online horizons with different types of websites and apps. For Tech Boomers, actually, we drive most of our traffic through search engine optimization, which basically means when someone searches a query like what is Netflix or how to create a Facebook account, we're generally ranked pretty high on the first page, and that's how we get a lot of our traffic. And in that sense, we're very happy with that, because that allows us to teach technology to website visitors all around the world. Last month we taught over 160,000 people across 100 countries how to use technology. And we're expecting that number to grow. We've been growing at about 20 to 30% month over month traffic. So we're really hoping to get that number to closer to 1 million students a year from now. One of the most common questions when I'm chatting with digital literacy teachers and librarians is how do you make money, and do your courses cost anything? And as Crystal mentioned earlier, all of our courses will always be free for both our users and our partners, including libraries and any type of digital literacy training organization. We do make money through advertising to keep the lights on. We are really trying to focus, especially in the future, to only advertise websites and online services that we're already teaching people how to use. And we're also going to be looking down the road to establish sponsorship partners with different types of online services. Again, focusing on websites and apps like Amazon and eBay that we're already teaching people how to use. Another popular question that I get from librarians and other digital literacy teachers is, do you have any plans on selling third-party usage data? And we absolutely will not. Online privacy is just very important to us and our partners and our users, especially those new to the internet. They want to make sure that what they're doing is private, and so that's something we've set as a standard for our website. So moving on to who Tech Boomers was built for, it really started off with the older adult focus, with my parents in mind, the boomer generation, but it's really useful for anybody with limited computer skills. I'm discovering more and more that people that live in rural areas that are using online or getting high-speed internet for the first time are finding it useful, and that can be across all ages. Tech Boomers was also built for technology teachers, obviously, including myself, who taught friends and family throughout my life, teaching them how to use technology. And actually, shortly after we launched, I realized how useful Tech Boomers and our free courses can be for tech training organizations. My girlfriend, just after we launched, she posted on Facebook, and one of her friends worked at Guelph Public Library here in Ontario, Canada. And she mentioned that she wasn't teaching digital literacy herself, but she knew of a couple other people that were at that library. And she was saying how useful it can really be, because they're often left to their own devices to create the content for the classes and that. So right away, we just saw a lot of opportunity to do whatever we can to help libraries and other tech training organizations. And with thousands of libraries and nonprofits teaching digital literacy across North America, and obviously even more around the world, we just saw a lot of opportunity to help them however we could, because in a lot of cases they're left to their own devices to create their own training materials. So really we're trying to help them however we could. And it's been a great two-way street as well. Our library partners have been some of our best early adopters. They provided great feedback about the website, courses, which courses to create, and then how to improve the content itself. So it's been awesome for us too. And something I always like to point out too is that with what we're doing on Tech Boomers, we're certainly not trying to replace the in-person training. We think that's super important, especially for someone getting online for the first time, but also on an ongoing basis as well. I think the in-person training is very, obviously it's social and it's more engaging, and to have that one-on-one and group training sessions we think is super important, and really goes hand in hand with online training where people can self-learn at home once the class ends in person. So moving on to kind of the meat of the presentation, I'm going to be covering 6 different ways that librarians can leverage Tech Boomers to teach and promote digital literacy. The first is kind of a no-brainer. Tech Boomers is just a free resource for students to self-learn. So if you have a patron that comes in asking about a specific topic, and maybe you don't have a class or a program on that topic, or you don't have time for one-on-one training, or perhaps you're just not familiar with that website or app, there's a very good chance we have over 80 courses that we have a course for that one. So feel free through word of mouth to make recommendations to try out Tech Boomers. We also have a number of different marketing designs that our library partners love using. They'll post, we have a couple different flyer designs, and they can post them in their computer labs. Bookmarks are also very popular. We actually just came out with a new bookmark design a couple days ago, so we have I think 3 now. But librarians will print them up at their library and then hand them out when people come in with questions, or they'll even put them in books as they check out the books for the patrons. So we have a page that's accessible via our footer, and there's the URL right there, Marketing Designs. And another, probably one of the best ways as well, in addition to word of mouth and the marketing designs, adding a link to Tech Boomers on your website. A lot of our partners will add links, and library partners will add links on their homepage, or they'll add a direct link in maybe a resources menu. And also a lot of library websites have specific resource pages already focusing on older adults or technology training. So we invite you to add a link in whichever area of your website that you think makes the most sense, and that can, where you can build awareness about Tech Boomers and for people that are interested in learning about how to use websites and apps. Number 2 is sharing content with your social media followers. You might have a number of patrons that follow your library on Facebook, but maybe haven't wandered to use different other types of websites and apps. And sharing on our content, our courses and tutorials is a great way to motivate and excite learners about different websites and apps to try, and to provide specific resources where they can actually learn how to use them. On Tech Boomers, we have, like I said, close to 1,100 tutorials and 80 courses, so there's a wealth of worthy content to share. There's also a lot of great content on other websites as well, so if you can start to share that, you can help build awareness, especially if you're sharing our content as you're mentioning other programs and classes in digital literacy at your library. It's a great way to build excitement and to motivate people. On most websites, you can share the course and tutorial pages directly from the sites, and Tech Boomers is the same. And last thing I want to mention on this slide is that we have a partner newsletter that we send out every Tuesday, a day after we launch our new course, that has information about the new course and other popular tutorials and courses that you can share with your social media followers. We also have in that pre-made tweets to make your lives easier if you just want to plug it into your social media calendar. So you can sign up for that at that URL there. Partner newsletter page is accessible via our footer, and or you can email me, steve@techboomers.com. So number 3, in getting into leveraging our content, we encourage our partners to leverage our content however they want in their existing programs and classes. It can be difficult and time-consuming to maintain up-to-date training materials for websites and apps that are constantly changing. So we encourage anyone really to print up our tutorials and use them as handouts, or share our tutorial videos with your students. And a lot of our partners as well that teach technology, they love to assign online tutorials for homework to continue the educational process at home. And then, so let's say, for example, you're running a 2-hour introduction to Facebook, and then you have weekly classes after that for 3 or 4 weeks. You can encourage them, maybe after you teach them, give them a tour in your class and they all create accounts. You can encourage them to go to Tech Boomers to learn about Facebook privacy while they're at home, because we have 3 different tutorials for that one. So that's another way to encourage self-learning at home. And very similar to number 3, number 4 is creating new classes with our training materials. You can use Tech Boomers literally as a textbook for the entire curriculum for your class to save you the effort of creating any new training materials at all. whether it's a group setting where people are learning together or a self-paced setting. You can, yeah, like I said, use TechBoomers as a textbook. And we already talked about some of the different websites and types of websites, but social, educational, entertainment, online shopping, we kind of cover the whole spectrum of different types of websites and apps that people are looking to learn how to use. And we're also always looking for feedback of other websites and apps that you'd like us to add a course for. So if you have any ideas that aren't already on TechBoomers, please email me at steve@techboomers.com. You can also post on most of our pages in the Facebook comments at the bottom of the pages and make recommendations. We're always connecting with different people there. A new type of class that some of our partners are trying out, and they've been pretty successful, is what we call drop-in self-learning sessions. And the general idea behind these is that you run a weekly class or a bi-weekly class where learners come in with their own devices, or you can provide them, the library can provide them as well. And students basically just choose a topic on TechBoomers and start working their way through the tutorials and ask questions as they come up to the teacher there, or if there's multiple teachers. I think there's a lot of benefits to these types of class. It's really important to encourage self-learning. You potentially can teach more students at the same time because you don't really have to, it's not one-on-one training. People will be learning on their own. And that's especially true if you have students who have a little bit more familiarity with using websites and the internet, and they just want to kind of expand the horizons. And probably the best part potentially is that there's no ongoing preparation for teachers, which is great. And number 6, this is something we started doing relatively recently. We used to do a lot of guest posting for our library partner websites and nonprofit partner websites, but it started to become very time consuming for us, and it can be for the people that are writing the blog posts on these blogs as well. So what we decided to do instead is create a pool of, I think it's over 30 articles now, that basically you can repost on your blog. And these are articles already on TechBoomers. And they cover a variety of different types of posts. Most of them right now are introductions to popular websites and apps. So we'll introduce what it is, why it's useful, and some tips and tricks on how to get the most of it. We also have some posts on internet safety and privacy. And down the road, we're going to have some funner posts about the best of the web posts, as we're calling them, or top 10 lists, top 10 gardening websites, for example, that kind of thing. So you can learn more about this campaign in our Post Our Articles page. There's the URL, and it's accessible via our footer as well. Or you can email me, steve@techboomers.com. So those are, the 6 ways that librarians can leverage TechBoomers. To get started, I should mention there's no registration, there's no sign-up, there's no partnership agreement. We have a Creative Commons license, and so if you want to start using our tutorials tomorrow, by all means, in any way that you will find useful, and same with all of those different 6 ways you can use TechBoomers. So that covers the main topics. So I guess if there's any questions, I'm sure there might be some with this many people.
Yeah, Steve, thanks for sharing all of this great information on what TechBoomers includes and how people might use it in their libraries, and also in whatever nonprofit or other instance they may choose to use it. We have gotten some questions, so I'll be giving you some of those. And yeah, we have a great audience today, so we certainly have a lot of questions. We will get to some right now, and we will also have time at the end of the webinar to respond to more questions. And if we don't get to your question live, we will respond via email, but we will do as many as we can. So Steve, one thing I know you said is that this, just to reiterate, so this is a free resource for libraries, for nonprofits, for anyone who wants to use it, correct?
Absolutely, yeah.
Great. I know it's one of those things, I know it seems like it's too good to be true, so we get a lot of questions just to clarify that. Now one thing we didn't get to see is really what the tutorials look like once you're in TechBoomers. And I don't know if you might be able to just describe to us what type of content is in the tutorials and how maybe it is different from other types of tutorials that are out there.
Yeah, for sure. So so we have a lot of different types of tutorials. Some are more informational. We usually have at least 3 that introduce the website or app and answer basic questions before someone gets started. What it is, why it's useful, how much does it cost, is it safe, those kinds of questions. And then we move on we even have a review that go over the pros and cons of the website in an unbiased way. And then kind of the meat of each of the courses are obviously how to use it. So we'll have tutorials on how to sign up, how to use specific features. We have a lot of tour tutorials. And the tutorials themselves, we try to write them in as clearly as possible, not to make them too long, but we like to keep them very detailed. They do generally target the older adult audience when we come up with relevant examples, for example. So our Skype tutorial may mention you can use Skype to have a video chat with your grandkids, but again, those examples can be applicable to everyone. We have a lot of screenshots that we have. We have a lot of kind of numbered lists, and below every kind of numbered step is a big screenshot. We have these little kind of buttons within the screenshots that are kind of pop-up buttons that you can click to get more information about a specific section of a page. I mentioned we have video tutorials. We have them for a lot of our most popular courses, Facebook and Twitter, for example. We haven't created videos for a little while. We do have a small team with limited resources, so in videos cost a lot more to create, but we do plan on playing video catch-up with more of our courses in the near future. So expect a lot of those to come probably later this year.
Great. Great. Now, have you heard of any libraries that are using this as a resource to teach others within their library, like staff or volunteers? Anything like that, or would you recommend that?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I had that in one of my past presentations. But yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, to bring people up to speed at the library, to train staff, it's just as applicable for them as it is for the patrons.
Excellent. We've had a couple of questions, people wondering if you plan to provide training in other languages, especially Spanish seems to be the one that pops up the most.
Yeah, we absolutely do. Unfortunately, we have a small team with limited budget, but I think that's something we will really push for in early 2017.
Excellent. And I know you didn't have a lot of time to talk about all of the different topics you're covering currently, but we've had people ask about specific topics. One person asks if you have tutorials on how to use devices, not just websites and apps.
Not yet, but it is definitely something. Again, in the future, we really want to expand our content offering beyond just websites and apps. We want to get to devices, whether it's smartphones and cameras and tablets. So definitely down the road. Right now, our focus is really on the websites and apps, but I'd probably say within 3 or 4 months, we'll be expanding that to devices.
Excellent. And I know this is obviously might be giving you a lot of ideas as well as we get these questions in. So
yeah, absolutely.
We'll have a poll in just a minute where we'll actually get a little bit more feedback there. Now, another person asked and I think that this question is about the website itself. Is there an app available for tech boomers, or is that in your plan for the future?
So I don't think it's in the plan for the future because the website is mobile friendly. So it can be used on a device as small as an iPhone 5, for example. Might be not as ideal if you're looking at big screenshots on a small screen, but it is mobile friendly on all devices. We might consider an app down the road, but as long as I think that visitors and our students can access it on a mobile device, I think that's kind of the main goal with that.
And we've got so many questions coming in. I'm trying to find a good one we haven't already responded to. Is there a login or account? Do people create a login and track their progress? And also I'll tie into that, are there certificates available when people finish, or is it just that you get to the end and you're done with it?
Anybody can create an account just with an email address and a password. You can even use a Facebook or a Google account, and then they can track their progress. And it's basically self-paced. So once you finish reading a tutorial, there's a couple buttons where you can click to just mark it as complete. So there's not really any quizzes or anything at the end. It's self-regulated, I guess is a good way to say it. We don't currently offer any certificates for completing courses. We give a nice congratulations message at the end, but that's about it for now. And that is something we're hoping to look at next year as well.
Great. All right. Well, we will hold the rest of these questions for the end. I'm going to try to just mention a few things so everybody hears it now if you've just joined us. All of the links from the presentation so far and the PowerPoint slides will be included in the archives. You'll have access to all of this later, and you will automatically receive an email with all of that within the next couple of days. Also, this tool we've been talking about, techboomers.com, is a free resource, and yes, you can use it in your library to teach classes and to share it with patrons. And I did see that one person sent us a message and said, Tech Boomers is listed on my e-resource handout that I give out during computer classes. So Kim, thanks for sharing that comment. And it's